Good day, everyone! We, Group 6, are honored to present to you one of the notable works in classic literature, The Last of the Mohicans by Edgar Allan Poe. This timeless piece continues to capture the imagination of readers with its themes, characters, and historical significance. I am Angelique Diocampo, and together with my fellow group members, we have prepared this presentation for you. Before we begin with our discussion, allow us to first acknowledge the members of our group who have worked hard to bring this presentation to life. Now that we've introduced our group, I'm back to continue with the discussion. I hope you're all ready to listen as we explore the beginnings of American literature. During its early history, America was a series of British colonies to what is now known as the United States. This means that in the beginning, American writers followed and were heavily influenced by the British style of writing, since America was still under British rule. Thus, the literary tradition of the country can be connected to the British literary tradition. So, if we look at early American works, they share similarities with British literature in terms of themes, style, and even the language used. However, the modern-day American writing is completely separated from the earlier tradition because of its diverse nature and the breadth of its production. This shows us how American literature eventually found its own identity. It became broader, more diverse, and reflective of the unique culture and experiences of America itself.
The earliest American writings include Captain John Smith's A True Relation of Virginia, year 1608. This work described the condition in the Virginia colony and emphasized the benefits of colonial settlement. It served both as a promotional piece to encourage migration and as a record for the English audience back home. As the colonies developed, political writings became increasingly influential. Authors such as Samuel Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Paine used essays, pamphlets, and letters to inspire unity and resistance against British rule. Paine's Common Sense in the year 1776, for example, directly encouraged colonists to fight for independence, while Franklin's Wit and Wisdom promoted values of liberty, hard work, and civic responsibility. Later, the writings of Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, John Jay, and Thomas Jefferson shaped the very foundation of the United States. Through works such as the Federalist Papers by Hamilton, Madison, and Jay, explained and defended the principle of the new Constitution, guiding the public towards acceptance of a strong but balanced federal government. Jefferson, meanwhile, authored the Declaration of Independence, which not only announced America's break from Britain but also laid down enduring principles and equality and rights. Together, these writings moved from describing the colonies to arguing for independence and finally to defining the principles of the new nation.
The list of influential American writers will go on and include Washington Irving with his work Salmagundi, A History of New York by Diedrich Knickerbocker, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Henry Van Winkle, to name a few. James Fenimore Cooper and his classic The Last of the Mohicans. Edgar Allan Poe, who is considered the father of short stories, wrote The Raven, The Cast of Amontillado, The Falls of the House of Usher, and a lot more of other seminal works. Herman Melville's Moby Dick and Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter comprise the dark romanticism subgenre. James Fenimore Cooper. He is recognized for his historical novels about frontier life. His most famous work mentioned here is The Last of the Mohicans, a classic adventure story set during the French and Indian War. Edgar Allan Poe identifies Poe as the father of short stories. His work is known for its gothic and macabre themes. The text lists some of his most famous pieces, including The Poem, The Raven, and the short stories The Cast of Amontillado and The Fall of the House of Usher. Herman Melville and Nathaniel Hawthorne. These two are grouped together as major figures of dark romanticism subgenre. The text cites Melville's epic whaling novel Moby Dick and Hawthorne's historical novel The Scarlet Letter as prime examples of this style. What is dark romanticism? Dark romanticism is a literary movement which was a reaction to the more optimistic and idealistic view of human nature found in mainstream romanticism, focuses on the darker, more pessimistic aspects of life.
Continue the short list of celebrated American writers, you also have to take note of the works of Wade Whitman and Emily Dickinson. Quite honored as two of the greatest 19th century poets, the proponents of realism, Mark Twain and Henry James, should be remembered for their writing style changed the way Americans write their language. The two writers created characters who speak like real people and sound decently American with accents. The contributions of some famous American writers to literature, Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson, are highlighted as two of the greatest poets of the 19th century because of their unique styles and lasting influence on poetry. It also mentions Mark Twain and Henry James, who were known for realism. The writing style changed how Americans expressed themselves in the literature. Twain and James created characters that spoke in a way that reflected real people, using regional accents and language that made them sound truly American. The passage talks about how certain American writers made a big impact on literature. Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson are recognized as two of the greatest poets of the 19th century because they introduced new and powerful ways of writing poetry. On the other hand, Mark Twain and Henry James are remembered for realism, a style of writing that shows life and people as they truly are. Their work changed the way Americans use language in writing. They created characters that sound natural, spoke with real accents, and reflected the culture of their region.
At the beginning of the 20th century, American novelists started experimenting in style and in subject matter. Writers like Edward Bellamy, Upton Sinclair, and Henry Adams discussed political and educational issues and the power of corporation in their works. At the beginning of the 20th century, American novels began experimenting with new styles and subject matters, reflecting the changing social, political, and economic landscape of time. Writers like Edward Bellamy, Upton Sinclair, and Henry Adams explored themes that were relevant to the era. First, political and social issues. These writers addressed concerns such as inequality, injustice, and the impact of industrialization on society. Power of corporations. They critique the growing influence of corporations and the consequences of unchecked capitalism. Educational issues. Some writers, like Henry Adams, explored the role of education in shaping individual and societal values. Works of Edward Bellamy, Looking Backward in 1888, a utopian novel that explores a future society where cooperation and social welfare prevail. Works of Upton Sinclair, The Jungle, on 1906, a heartbreaking novel that exposed the harsh conditions faced by immigrant workers in the meatpacking industry. These writers' works reflect the complexities and challenges of the earlier 20th century, offering insights into the social, political, and economic issues of that time.
American writers also expressed their disillusionment following upon the war. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby, which shows how the dreams and ambitions of the youth may quickly disappear and ultimately lead to disappointment. So, F. Scott Fitzgerald is the one of the American writer that expressed her disillusionment, and he wrote the novel of titled The Great Gatsby. This novel is published in 1925. It tells the story of Jay Gatsby, a self-made millionaire, and his pursuit of Daisy Buchanan, a wealthy young woman whom he loves in his youth. This set in 1920s New York. The book is narrated by Nick Carraway, and the theme of The Great Gatsby is that past cannot be repeated and everybody has to move forward in life.
So there are still many other influential American writers that we were not able to mention here. Therefore, we could say that history of American literature is very rich in content and tradition and definitely shaped the writing style of contemporary writers. For discussion, American literature is rich in history, content, and tradition. Many influential writers shape its development, and their works continue to inspire and influence contemporary writers. Literature evolves through time, but it remains a bridge between the past and the present.
American literature at the turn of the 21st century has become democratic and heterogeneous. Regionalism has flowered and international or global writers refract U.S. culture through foreign perspectives. Creative nonfiction and memoir have flourished. The short story genre has gained luster and the short story has taken root. A new generation of playwrights continues the American traditions of exploring current social issues on stage. American literature in the 21st century is undergoing significant transformation, becoming increasingly diverse and democratic. We're witnessing a remarkable surge in regional voices, bringing unique local flavors and experiences to the forefront. International perspectives are also being woven into the fabric of American literature, offering fresh insights and global connections. Moreover, genres like creative nonfiction and short stories are thriving, with writers pushing boundaries and experimenting with innovative styles. The story, in particular, has gained immense popularity, with the short story emerging as a distinct and captivating form. Furthermore, a new generation of playwrights is using the stage to tackle pressing social issues, sparking important conversation and reflections. By exploring complex themes and experiences, American literature continues to evolve, remaining relevant, impactful, and thought-provoking for audiences worldwide.